Hello, I'm Joanne, and this is Joe Mama's Garden. Today, I just visited Lynn and Roger, and they have an aquaponic garden system. They have tilapia fish that go ahead and live in a tank, and the waste from those fish actually fertilize and give nutrients to the plants that are growing in a hydroponic situation. Let's meet Lynn and Roger. This is Lynn and Roger, and they have a fabulous aquaponics gardening system. So how many fish are in here?
There's 9 in here, plus all these babies. Plus last night when we were out here, we saw a whole nother set of babies that are out here.
Oh, well, that's great.
Them this morning, but
and did you choose the tilapia because
they're easier to grow? Most people who do aquaponics use tilapia, and it's a good fish for eating as well. So, I mean, I know a lot of people have heard about tilapia not being very healthy because of whatever, I guess
the bottom feeder?
Yeah, right. And that's from foreign countries, when they bring them in. These I'll get, they're hand fed. We're given, the best.
You know exactly,
we know exactly what
what's
they
going
eat.
in.
We've had them since they were not much bigger than
the babies.
The babies. And when they told us that they procreate rapidly, we didn't realize how rapidly. So what we'll,
I
we'll
see
do,
them.
we'll end up giving
see
them,
the fish.
them away whenever they're bigger. Some of the babies and stuff. You need, Roger's better at this than I am about how much stuff you need, but when we did the hydroponics in California, we did it 1 year, and it was a lot of hassle because of the having to do the chemicals yourself and all that stuff. It was constant. And so we decided to try aquaponics after we came here. I was hoping you could get to see some of the fish.
I can see the shadows a little bit.
Yeah, they're there.
Yeah, pretty big.
Yeah.
And how many big ones do you think are in there?
There's 9.
Oh, okay. And do they not eat the babies?
No, they don't. They don't. Even if they're out, there are some that are still out in the tank, but they don't eat their young. That's another issue for me,
Right. Well, I mean, that
but
makes it much more
they're swimming around right
efficient.
there. Yeah. We've got a lot of algae in here right now. We've been trying to get some plecostomus to go in there to clean up the algae, but it's impossible to get plecostomus here.
Oh, you can't find them?
No, we can find them. They get here on Wednesdays. They deliver on Wednesdays, and before anybody can get there, there's lines of people waiting to get them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is everybody just trying to do the...
I think a lot of people are trying to do aquaponics, and that's what you need to keep your tank clean.
We moved here just 3 years ago. It was June 3 years ago we moved, and I emptied out my fish tank and gave away all the fish, including 2 plecostomus that were about this big.
It was
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
It would have been perfect. For
But this is exactly what I would. These old water tanks.
Yep.
They're like 250 gallons, right? 200.
Yeah, these are actually 330s.
Oh, okay.
He just cut this one down.
I just
this
started
morning.
making my second one here.
Oh, we didn't cut this one. That was a tank.
But
So
you
we're putting in
you
another
get them as
system
a
just like this.
full container with a metal rail around. And then you just cut the rails, you make this rack, take it off the bottom, sit on top. This is the only way to go. I buy these down from a guy over on 95th Street for $150 each.
One thing you would think of with aquaponics is the heat here in Phoenix. But the shade screen that they have over the fish tank, and then just the water that circulates through the plants and the growing media, keeps the water cool enough so that the fish are actually thriving and doing very well. As you could tell, they're doing so well, they're actually bearing live babies. And we're going to wait for those babies to grow up, and then we start harvesting the fish as our protein source. It's completely self-sustaining, and it is just amazing to me. And the plants are growing so well. I just can't believe how awesome it is.
Okay.
Lava rock on the bottom, and then pebbles on top about 3 inches.
And a lot of plants, big heavy rooted plants, don't like to be in the water all the time, like what I was thinking. So you put these in grow media. These bell siphons actually fill up mechanically, create a siphon, and they bring back out into the tank.
Okay.
So yeah, each one of these guys has to have a bell siphon.
And these plants that are in this is okra that's growing here.
Okay.
And there.
Oh, she'll never plant that.
Not a big,
like okra?
not a big. I grew up in the South, and
Me
it's
too. I'm from
slimy.
the South. Oh, well,
Alabama
it's
is-
not been cooked right if you ever seen
I
it.
think that's it, and it's supposed to be so good for you.
And it's wonderful. I cook it with bacon.
Okay,
Put
I'll have
bacon
to
with
try it
and then you
again.
just fry it until the slime is cooked out of it, and it's amazing. So,
I will give it
but I
another
also
try.
make, okra pickles as well.
Oh, do you? Okay.
So these were we just transplant. Honey, when did we transplant these in here? Like last week, and they were like this big. They were a little bit smaller than these.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
over here.
wow. Okay.
And that's how fast they grow because of the nutrients from the fish. They grow
Wow.
really fast.
Really?
And you have plenty of bees.
Yeah,
These are just
and actually that's a small amount. Usually by the afternoon,
Mm-hmm.
we have a ton of pollinators. Somebody asked me one day, "Do you have bees for pollination?" And I said, "We have plenty of bees."
Wow. It's almost like you must have a hive nearby.
Yeah. Well, that's why I told Roger. I said, maybe they've got to have a hive somewhere, but at in the evenings as it becomes dusk.
You got an air bubble in each one.
When you're back here, there's usually a
Just
lot
on
of
a
them
little-
back here,
Okay.
and you can
Little,
watch them all leave.
like
They're going
one
that
from the fish
direction. They all go in that
Yeah.
direction.
Okay.
Actually, it's a,
And there's, huge
it's
trees.
a pretty good size one.
Okay.
That is so
And all
cool.
of this is also solar powered. I put it down, so.
Oh, cool.
Got some lettuce starting to go to seed. Are you going to save the seeds?
We haven't. We've been discussing it. Haven't really decided. Yeah.
So when you start them, do you start them is this the medium you start them in?
You can start. We have not done this before, but you can just put the seed right in the grow media, and you would just make a spot because this actually you can see it's wet.
Okay.
Yeah.
And these are clay?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so whenever you can just put the seeds in here, a couple inches down, and they will germinate and grow like that. We've not done that yet. We have a raised bed.
Okay.
And
Also.
we planted, and we just did it just to get the plants germinated and starting to grow, and then we transplanted them. These were just transplanted. This one looks really puny, but it's already starting to get new growth.
Oh, perfect.
And we just planted it day before yesterday in here.
Wow.
So all
This
of
is
these
great nutrients.
were just planted this week, and already they're getting lots of new growth on them. So I'm a happy girl.
Oh, yes.
Very center.
And this,
This is how the tomatoes are grown. And
okay.
we didn't have any luck. We had zero luck with the tomatoes. This is our second time of planting, and we had all of these filled, and we got buds, but we never got
Tomatoes.
we never got fruit. So
And what was the temperature when you were doing it?
he was monitoring everything. Everything supposedly was
Oh, in the
correct.
right.
And he checks the pH in the water every day, and to make sure that the pH
Okay. So
level
what is the
accurate.
pH normally?
5, I think, it's supposed
Oh,
to.
okay. So a little more
5.5.
on the acidic side.
And so whenever we he did some more research and found out that because this is last in line, if there's any sediment in the bottom of the pot, then it will. It's not. It doesn't allow enough nutrients because the roots get covered.
Oh, I see.
I'll show you what the roots look like once you put them in here.
Oh, okay.
They grow down into the water, and that's what the roots are supposed to look like. When we took it out, when we were getting ready to throw them away, because they weren't really producing, they were dark brown. And that lets you know that the pots have a lot of sediment in them from the fish.
Okay, so now, it just wasn't either aerated enough?
Correct. It wasn't the aeration, it was just that it was getting the bad chemicals that are left over stuff. So now we're cleaning them on a regular basis. So
what do you do to clean them? You just empty them out?
You just use a cloth and clean up the stuff in the bottom of the tank, because it settles in the very bottom.
Okay. And were those roots all the way to the bottom?
They were huge. They were huge.
Oh, okay. But they were just smothered.
Yeah. So like I lift this out now like this, but whenever the others were in here, they were so big, they were so heavy you could hardly lift them.
Wow.
They were really heavy.
And is this a container that is this like a pool filter container, or
No,
just
it's a planter?
Is it a planter?
Yeah, it's just a planting container that you can get at. I think that he ordered those online, but you can get them at Home Depot or wherever. I mean, they're everywhere. But you just put the plant in and then fill it with the grow media. And when you pull the plants out, they actually grow into
the clay. Really? Well, it makes sense. They're pretty porous.
Yeah.
Just to hold it.
Yeah.
Now so
That's the air line.
These are air lines.
So each one of these has an air line so that it's aerated.
Okay.
Why this one's not? I don't see any aeration in this one. I don't know if he's got that.
There's a little bit here.
So each one of them are aerated because they have to be oxygenated. All the plants have to be oxygenated.
Lynn said that they really didn't have a great result from the first time that they had the tomato plants. They had lots of flowers, but when they lifted up the plant, all the roots had a lot of sediment on them. And so with that sediment, they were really kind of smothered and could not absorb the moisture, the water, or the nutrients that was being supplied to them. So they redesigned those buckets, and the buckets have I guess like a little cap of water, and the water goes on top, and that's what the plants are getting. And once a week they remove the plant, lift out the plant, and then they go ahead and then they clean that bucket so that the sediment isn't in there the whole time. And it looks like they're doing great. So I'm excited to see when those flowers bloom and they have some tomatoes on those plants. Now, I have never seen a hydroponic garden or an aquaponic garden before today. And the one thing I was so amazed at is really it's a simple idea. It just is really just circulating. I was amazed to find out that, you can really start the seeds in that clay media, and you could transfer starts if you wanted to start them in soil. This is the aquaponics system. The tilapia obviously provide the nutrients needed for the plants. They live bear their babies, and these are them. 2 different litters, 2 different sizes. When they are, and when they are big enough, you harvest fish. Yeah, they're around that center. Now, why is this like this?
Because this one, he's just gotten started with this.
Oh,
Then this is the lava rock that goes on the bottom. Then we fill it with the clay pellets on top, and then that's what we plant into. And this is his bell siphon.
Okay.
Like he has over there.
And so he has holes here, so that's how the water's going to come out.
That's how the bell siphon works.
Okay. And then the bell prevents it from just keep coming out. And it just recirculates.
Right.
And then it goes into this bucket. So the hard,
what goes in here is this water. When it fills up from the other systems flowing back in, where you see it flowing in,
yes,
it will go over this top, and then all of the hard materials get mixed up because there is a system down below that circulates the water. You can see how the bubbles keep going around.
Right.
Well, it circulates the water and it pulls the hard materials from the bottom, and it goes over the top and drains into this bucket, which separates the clean water from the hard water, the hard materials.
And then because it has that cylinder inside, same process. It over the water that's doesn't have the hard deposits.
Right.
Go into the top right here, and it goes into this tank.
And that's the clean water.
It's the clean water, and it has a pump.
Right. And these water right now.
And this is all rainwater that you collected. So there's no hard anything in
As a
it.
matter of fact, we can't use our well water because has too much alkali in it.
Because we wanted to have that 5 pH.
Right.
Now, how do you change the pH? Do you have to alter it?
Well, you can. He has changed it. He has a kit that tells how much you need to.
Of whatever.
Right.
Stuff
Whichever chemical it is.
Okay.
Whether it needs to go up or down.
Look at these. Some of these bees are drowning. They're just playing in the water so much. And so then the water actually enters from the bottom, from the side.
Right over here is where the system starts.
Right here.
Yeah. That's dumping the water. So
Okay.
it's actually going through those lines there.
These, okay.
And then it's pulling that out through here. And then he just has aerator, and it goes from here to here where water continues to flow.
So this is the first part, it comes out. And then this is the last one that goes out before it goes down? Okay. So it enters here. And then it has,
And this side too.
enters here. And then when we know it's time to drain, it's this bell cap. The bell cap creates a suction. And then it goes down here so it can exit back to the tank.
Yep.
And these, oh, I'm sorry. These, okay.
Those
Enters
constantly flow.
here. Okay, it's just a flow, a whole system
Comes in
all
through
the way
there.
down.
Comes all the way around the system. Fills the last tank here, and then when it gets to the top here, it starts to flow out here, which goes directly back to the fish tank.
Yes, okay. And then each one of these has an air line to create this aeration that you see. Probably because I moved the air line before, why it didn't look like it was bubbling.
Especially now, it doesn't have any plants in it, so it doesn't matter.
And then this type of basket, because it has plenty of water access, just have the clay so that the clay can help with the retain moisture, and it has something for the roots to grab around.
Right, and they actually grow around, and as you saw before, it has the roots actually grow grow
out and through.
So you can
And
see
yeah,
them actually
look at
growing into some of the pellets there.
Very nice. So it creates stability.
It's only to hold the plants upright so they're not falling.
Now, when monsoon comes, how do you protect?
We'll see.
Maybe a stake. Tie them off to a stake, maybe.
You can see Roger has holes drilled in here because we do have the tomato cages for them.
Oh, very nice.
So
yes.
they're over there.
And that'll help protect them.
Yeah.
It's an awesome system. Awesome system. And it started from that.
No.
Well, it's awesome because you can be so self-sufficient. You have food you're growing, and then you have fish for a protein source.
And our plan is to...
It's all self-sufficient.
Our plan is to eventually be able to buy like a side of beef or a quarter beef and a quarter pork, so that we're not buying from the grocery store.
Right.
So that we have everything here.
And he's hunting, so
Right.
he brings back whatever meat
Right.
he hunts from your property in Williams.
Right.
One thing that does help Lynn and Roger out is Roger is an engineer. So as you could see, the areas of design are an engineering mind.
South, so you know it's always humid and hot there. So there's
And it
you don't have to-
rains.
yeah,
I
it
mean,
rains all the
here
time,
we get
so.
about 8 inches average a
In one
year.
day.
Yeah, in one day. And so, you know, you're catching that rain. Now the 1,500 gallon tank that you have, how much water is left? Because that's
quite a bit. There's
really.
We'll walk up there. It's very
And this is what does that water go to? Just
we
the
use it. We're
aquaponics?
using it now for their aquaponics.
And that's it. Okay.
And that's the only thing we've used it for so far because we're not really sure how we're going to complete everything.
This is the rain catchment system. These are the downspouts that were covered. You can plant directly into that clay media and your plant will sprout and it will continue to grow, and the roots will sometimes actually go into the clay media where it has pores. Or what Lynn and Roger have been doing is starting their plants in a raised bed and then transplanting them once they have gotten about 2-3 inches tall. And then you can see the difference of those okra plants. The taller okra was planted 1 week earlier than the smaller ones in the second bed. So I wanted to give you just a little recap of what that growing system was. Everything is run by solar. So we have solar panels on the top of a shed that is right next to the area that the shade cloth is over where all the plants are growing. They use the rock about 3 inches on the very bottom, and then it is a clay media 3 inches, and that actually absorbs the water, holds that moisture, and that's how the plants can go ahead and get the nutrients that that water, of course, which is coming from that fish tank, gives to the plants. The water is kept at a pH of 5, so it is slightly acidic. And the temperature is running, I didn't really get an exact measurement on them, but it's running probably about 70 or 85 degrees. So it's definitely cool enough. And same thing, it's keeping the fish perfect. I mean, the fish seem perfectly happy moving around, and they have the aeration going on, and the tomatoes need that aeration the most. The bees that are going to the garden go there for a couple reasons. The biggest reasons I think that the bees are actually going is they have water to drink, and that is really attracting them, and they know that the water's going to be there the whole time. They're probably getting a little something from that water since it is coming from that tank and it has the fish waste in it. Another reason why it's shaded, and they're looking for a flower or two. One other thing that they do with the tomato plants, because they are going to get quite big, because she does have indeterminate variety of tomatoes. So they have, Roger has put some holes in the top of those tomato buckets, and just a regular tomato cage can slip over that. They can tie the tomato to it, and it is definitely protected through our monsoon, which usually starts around July 4th, to be perfectly honest. You can always count that a monsoon is really near then. And we get wind gusts up to 70, 80 miles an hour at sometimes. You get that micro downpour, that microburst, and you can kind of get flooded. So that rainwater is just going to replenish the existing rainwater that they're using, and you're not going to have that hard calcium and any of the chlorine that is in just the tap water or all the other extra stuff, because they have well water and they don't want some of those things that are in the well water to go through the system, because it just doesn't end up with a good product. Just to utilize rainwater that was collected in that 15,000 gallon container is amazing to me. And it is 6 to 8 months later, and still 750 gallons of water is left, and they only use it for that aquaponic system. I hope you learned a lot about aquaponics like I did. We'll have to see if we can start one here. And it's amazing that they are just using the rainwater that they caught from the roof in one storm, and it was overflowing. Because here in Arizona we get about 8 inches of water a year. They're very, very self-sustaining. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope that you learned a lot about aquaponics. I know I did. I had never seen a setup before, and it does seem quite simple, but also so productive. Thank you so much for joining me. Until next time, goodbye.